Yo! Hegassen here, and today we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm very excited to be talking to you about this film today. It's one of my favourites. Slight little spoiler warning there, but it is. We are now 10 films into this Marvel Cinematic Universe rewatch. 10 more to go, not including Captain Marvel, because I'm reviewing the Blu-rays, and that one unfortunately is not out yet. So 10 more to go, which will take us all the way to Ant-Man and the Wasp. But today, let's get into Guardians of the Galaxy. So the film starts off and the first thing you notice is boom! The music. I'd say out of all of the MCU films, Guardians of the Galaxy is the one where you first really actually notice the music. Maybe the first Iron Man as well, maybe Iron Man 2, but definitely in this one the music is a much bigger part of the film, much more noticeable, and also very important to the plot as well. Because we find out that music for Peter Quill is the thing that connects him back home and to everything that he's lost, like his mum and stuff from back home. Because at the beginning of the film we see that very sad scene actually. Peter's mum dies and leaves him this mixtape, and this mixtape becomes the soundtrack of the film, and it's a very important part of just the entire Guardians films overall. Very important to the theming and the the ambience and the style of the films, but also very important to Peter himself and his character, because like I said, that is his connection to Earth and his mum that he cared for really deeply. Unlike other films such as Iron Man 3, this one really knows how to balance out things for like humour, action and sadness. Because straight after this we go into the main part of the film where we see Peter on some ruined planet and he's going around looking for all of the ruins. The music starts playing and we get a good idea then of the main tone and style of the film, of Peter dancing through the cave, picking up those little rat things, singing with them, kicking them about. It kind of gives you everything that you need to know about what the Guardians films are about. It also gives you lots of great insights into Peter's character.
Star-Lord. Who? Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
In this very early scene of the film, you can see he's this kind of Han Solo mixed with a little bit of Lando, mixed with a little bit of Space Indiana Jones type character. You know, he's got big ego, kind of out for himself kind of attitude. Start off with two slightly little negatives, I'd say, though, is first of all, I don't really understand what his like little hologram thing that he's got. It's like projecting holograms of the ruins and it's showing everyone walking about and stuff, and a dog for some reason. Apparently they have dogs in space. I mean, I guess they have raccoons in space, but they've got a dog there as well, and I don't really know what's going on there. It's kind of showing the past, but how did it get all that recordings and stuff? That's never really explained. And the other little slight criticism is the fact that Peter's gone there to collect this artifact. He doesn't know it at the time, but that artifact is, of course, the Power Stone, one of the Infinity Stones. This film is very important in setting up a lot of the lore about the Infinity Stones. And it's not very well guarded, is it? It's just there in the middle of the ruins, and he picks it up and walks out. It's just behind one door. It doesn't really explain why it's there. It doesn't really explain how he knows it's there. Apparently he just got a tip off from the Avengers or something like that. And then bizarrely Korath just turns up. Again, that does not really explain why he's there either. Funny that they happen to turn up at the exact same time as well. But okay, fine. Korath, probably one of the weakest characters in the film, but it is a good opportunity to see Peter in action at the beginning of the film. I love his helmet. I love that he wears his helmet quite a lot in this film. I love his guns. Look like a pair of like Covenant plasma rifles from Halo. They're really cool. And then from here we start getting all of the character introductions. We get Yondo, and I love Peter and Yondo's interactions. You know, Yondo is like the best space dad ever, except the fact that he actually kind of isn't, because he's always giving that speech of I love that speech where he's like, "We're gonna eat you, boy." He keeps doing that throughout the film. They've got a great little character interactions, and Yondo is a really good fun character. He's kind of a dick, but he's a likable dick, or as I should say to quote the film, he's an asshole but not a total dick. We then get introduced to the main villain of the piece in Ronan. He's alright. Better than Malekith from the last film, so slightly better class of space warrior. He's a little bit intimidating at the beginning. He just kills Thanos' assistant, the other.
Who?
But then after that, he just gets completely put in his place by Thanos.
Demeanor is that of a pouty child.
But he's alright, he's cool, he's got a good look. Nice. His ship's really cool. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him. But I suppose he does his job for what it needs to be done in the film. Although I do, towards the end of the film, you do start noticing that he's one of them villains that just kind of stands there and watches the heroes do stuff when he could very easily just go down there and wipe them all out very quickly. Like that whole final space battle, he could have probably have just gone down to the planet straight away. Kree probably could have just jumped out the spaceship and landed on the planet without being harmed at all. But I mean, he took a rocket to the chest and survived, but not a rocket raccoon, an actual rocket. But fair enough. We also get to see Nebula and Gamora, two more great little characters. Nebula, it's great to see another Doctor Who companion in the MCU. I really like her character. We don't get too much of her in this film, because you see like little snippets of her and stuff, but it's really the later films that we get more on her. And of course we get Gamora. Really like Gamora's character. I like how in the Guardians group, she's kind of like the straight woman, you know. She does play it very straight, she's very serious, and she plays off all of the other ones really well. I do like her interactions between her and Quill, and how their relationship starts to brew in this film. That's really good. How it, again, tying into the music, you know, she doesn't dance, and then at the end of the film, she gives like a little bit of a dance and shows like a little bit of growth in her character, and that she's warming up to Quill and her weird family, surrogate family that she's now got by the end of the film. Then we get introduced to Rocket and Groot, two of my favourite characters. I love how when we get introduced to Rocket, we just kind of see it from a first person perspective. We don't really see what he looks like. He's just looking around, looking at all these people. One of them is Stanley, which is really funny, hitting on some space girl. You get a really good sense of his character without actually seeing him. You do see him, and he's a rocket, and at that point it's like, alright, fair enough. And behind him is a talking tree, and you're like, alright, fair enough. I have to say though, the CGI is amazing, especially on Rocket. There's times in the film where he actually does look very realistic. It's very, very cool. And yeah, I really like their characters. I really like, again, Rocket, you know, he's an asshole, but he's not a total dick. And that's what I like about him. I really like his comedy. He's played really well. And of course, I really like Groot. I love how he's like kind of very innocent. You see him when he's like the first shot you see him, he's like drinking out this fountain. And you get the idea there that, you know, he's very innocent. He's very like looking at the world in all wonder and stuff. All of the characters here start to meet up and mix together. We get this great little fight scene in the plaza. We get to check out a lot of their characters. That scene's a lot of fun. And of course, they all get captured because they're fighting in this plaza in the middle of this heavily secured like police planet basically. So they all get arrested, and we get this great little police lineup scene with John C. Reilly and Peter Serafinowicz. They're both very funny, but I feel like they're a little bit underused in this film. There's only so much I guess you can do with the time, but they were good characters that I hope that we get to see more of. Sadly, we're probably, well, not Peter Serafinovic's character, but John C. Reilly's at least. But sadly, from what we know in Infinity War, I very much doubt that now. So I feel like they kind of wasted his character there. But we get that police lineup, and we get a lot of little Easter eggs there, and a lot of little more hints to their backstories and stuff, which is a really nice way of doing it. I like as well how in this film they're not like throwing the origins of these characters in your face, you know. You get the fact that Rocket, he was in some experiment. You see later on his back, you see all like the little bits of machinery in his back, so you know he's gone through some stuff. Sometimes he like brings it up, but you don't get it in full. You don't get flashbacks of it, and that's good. I really appreciate that. It lets him focus more on the actual plot and stuff of the film. Although one day I wouldn't mind seeing how Rocket and Groot actually got to meet. You just kind of hear about it in passing in this film. And then they all go to this big space prison, and this is where we get to meet Drax. When I first saw this film, or first saw the trailers and stuff of this film, I was like, I don't know, I think Drax is going to be my least favourite character. No, he's my best. He's my favourite character. I love Drax. I love the fact that he's very literal. He's a very serious character. He doesn't really understand humour and wordplay and stuff, and yet he's an absolute master of it. All of his jokes, even rewatching this film, I think this time it's like the 6th, 7th time I've seen this film, I'm still laugh out loud whenever I see him on the screen. He's so funny. Dave Bautista plays him really, really well. So in the kiln, all of our characters have finally come together and we get this big prison breakout scene. A lot of fun there. I do find it a little bit strange how the middle tower can detach and then all of like the little gunships can attach onto it, but it doesn't seem like it can fly very well. I don't know why that would be a design feature. And from there they have to go find their broker, which is the Collector. So they go to this giant celestial head, this thing called Nowhere, this big old mining facility. Really reminds me of Farscape, this scene. I think in fact there was a Farscape episode in a very similar thing. I love all the stuff in there. I just like looking around in the background, especially in the collector's room. So many great little Easter eggs. In particular, Howard the Duck, who I really hope we see a lot more of later on in the MCU. That every time we go out into the cosmic thing, I'd like to see like just like little cameos of what he's up to in the world. Need to get more Howard Duck and Seth Green. The Collector's really fun. He's totally crazy, but he's fun. And of course, from there, we get probably one of the most important scenes in the MCU. The origin of the Infinity Stones, or at least hints towards the origin of the Infinity Stones. And this is, I think, the first time where we really actually get information on them. We've had hints in the past, like Odin has said hints in the past that the ether traditionally takes the form of a stone, and he didn't actually say Infinity Stone then, but he hinted towards the fact that it was one. This is the film where we actually get to see them all. We see the Tesseract, we see the ether, we see the soul and mind stones, but I don't think we actually knew exactly what they were then while this film was happening. And then Drax does something a little bit stupid. Ronin turns up and we get this great little chase in the mine scene. It's like a car chase but in like little space pods. That's really fun. The bit where they're outside and Gamora's spaceship's been blown up and she's floating in space and Peter saves him. It does very much look like that they're just floating in water. But, you know, it's an important little scene for their relationship. And this, of course, leads us to the big final battle with Ronin over the Nova Prime planet. Pretty fun, maybe not as good as some of the other scenes, but there's still some good stuff in there. This scene is a really good one that shows how well it blends all of the different aspects of this film. You know, you get lots of great character interactions, you get some really good humour, there's a lot of good banter and back and forth. And there are also some generally sad scenes in here, such as
We are Groot.
where Groot sacrifices his life, but not in vain, because we get a little twig and that little twig becomes baby Groot. But the death of the original Groot is of course very sad. This is the scene, of course, I was talking about where Ronin is just kind of staring out the window when, you know, just get down on all he had to do is put the stone on the planet. So just get down on the planet, put the stone on the planet, stop standing there.
Pouty child.
I like the fact that that is actually kind of a little bit built into his character. And when he does get down onto the planet, you know, he has to be the bad guy. He has to give the big speech. You know, he's got his hammer like that being like, you all pay for what you've done, blah, 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 I'm a Kree. And then just as he's about to do it, you get the dance-off scene. Very funny. When I first saw it in the cinema, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that. But going back on a few more watches, I'm like, oh, I'm a bit more like, okay, I accept this, you know. He's just doing it for a distraction. And then Ronin dies, and another MCU bad guy's dead. In the Hall of Fame of dead MCU bad guys. Seriously, Marvel, keep a couple of them alive, would you? I mean, we get Nebula alive in this one, and nope, Korath died.
Who?
Yeah, they're all dead. As you can probably tell from my enthusiasm of this film, I really love it. It's just my kind of film. I love the banter between all of the characters. I'm a big sci-fi guy, so I love the setting. Like I said, it reminds me of Farscape and stuff in places. It's a very colourful film, very bright. It's got some good action. I love all the spaceship stuffs and the dogfights. Got some good ground fights as well. Rocket and Groot, I just love the more surreal characters, so they're awesome to see here. And I just think James Gunn and all of the cast, very well cast film. I think they all just did a fantastic job. So for me, Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a gold, it's an event exclusive, it's a noir, Widowmaker,
Ooh la la.
gold tier film for me. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know how many more times I can actually say that. I love it. But I wonder how I'm going to love the sequel, so I have to find out in a few more films. Are there any flaws with this film? Yeah, just a few little nitpicks, like I said at the beginning, with the Power Stone just being so easy to find and everyone turning up there at the exact same time. Ronan being killed off and just being a bad guy that just doesn't go and get into the fight when he could easily just do it. And a couple of characters that I feel like maybe should have got a little bit more time in the spotlight, or at least would like to see a little bit more again in the future. Korath being one. I mean, we do get to see him in Captain Marvel, but he's not even really that well utilised in that film. And of course, John C. Reilly's character. I would have said Kraglin as well, but we get to see a lot more of him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But overall, the positives far outweigh them. Like I say, great characters, great humour, really nice balance between humour, plot, being serious, and the sad moments. And what I also appreciated is the fact that the humour is also sometimes a little bit darker and a little bit more dirty than I would expect in a Marvel film. The main one, of course, being when Peter Quill's talking about the interior of his spaceship and what it would look like in a black light. That would look like a Jackson Pollock painting. I don't know how Rocket really got that reference on Jackson Pollock. So that was Guardians. Next is Age of Ultron. So what did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Hey, and if you enjoyed my video, maybe give it a like. And if you really liked it, why not subscribe? You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Twitch. Oh, and hey, here's 2 other videos you might like. Up top we'll eventually have Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And down below whatever my most recent video is. I've been Hegassen and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!